to order. I'll call this meeting to order. This is the executive meeting with the Montana Board of Crime Control Executive Committee, and welcome you all, and those of you online like myself. Apparently I didn't get things scheduled well enough to run down or run up the hill. So Tim, if you would call the roll.
Do you want me to do that, or do you want to do it?
Or
Do I? You guys see again? Yeah. Just a second. I gotta pull up my little sheet. I wasn't
Okay.
prepared. Wow. Alrighty. Are we ready? All right. Leo Dutton,
Here.
Rick Kern,
Here.
Lori Barron.
Here.
Oh. I know, right? Eric Bryson.
Here.
Megan Mulcahy.
Here.
Chantel Gaynor.
Here.
Katie Snipes. Ruiz. Too sensitive still. And then we have a guest, Stuart Segrust.
I'm counsel to the board.
I have you as guest. Sorry, he's our guest counsel. Sorry.
Okay. Will we have enough for a quorum for our executive committee?
We do, yes.
Roger that. Okay. So before I begin the meeting, I want to review some public comment, a few meetings that are ground rules for the meeting. So I got to take my glasses off here. The public comment notice. The public will have opportunity to comment on individual topics and at the end of the meeting regarding any matter under the jurisdiction of the board or the committee that is not on the current agenda. The board committee cannot act, but will listen to the comments and may ask staff to place the issue on a future agenda. The chair may limit comment period to proceed with the board or committee meeting. The committee will accept public comments online and then in person. You also may submit public comments in writing at Montana or mbcc@mt.gov. Keep the meeting, or a few things, keep the meeting on track for action items. After the introduction of the item, the committee will accept public comment and then take questions from the committee before moving to motion and discussion. One person speak at a time because I can't hear everybody. Please select the raise hand option on Zoom if you're attending in that manner. Please speak clearly so I can hear you. And this is a public meeting that's being recorded. Please keep your audio muted unless you're recognized by me. And AI note-taking bots may not be used during the meeting until a formal state policy is adopted. All right, thanks. First thing that we've got is I'm looking at the agenda. Then looks like Kayla, you're on here. Did you have anything that you wanted before we go into the first thing?
No, sir. This is Kayla Bragg. I think I'm ready for the next agenda item, review safe space compliance.
That's the next portion here. So the next thing on the agenda is to review Safe Space Incorporated compliance. So Kayla Bragg or Kara Snar, budget analyst. So is there any public comment before we start on that? Hearing no public comment, Kayla.
Thank you, Chair. Kayla Bragg, Executive Director with the Montana Board of Crime Control. I also have with me Kara Snar, a budget analyst too with us, and then Tammy Ferris, the financial manager. This is regarding Safe Space, who is, and I'll give a summary before I'll give an overview of what's occurred and where we're at and then open up for any questions you guys might have. But Safe Space is a current subgrantee of the Board of Crime Control. They receive funding from us for 4 different grants. So the Victims of Crime Act, the Stop Violence Against Women Act, the Sexual Assault Services Program, and the Family Violence Prevention and Services Act. So it's our 4 victim service programs or grants that we offer. They receive all 4. And Safe Space they're located in Butte. A little bit of an overview of them is they provide some services regarding a crisis line, a secure shelter, client advocacy, counseling and support groups, community education, and safety planning. Dan Murphy is their current board president, and Carolyn Johnson is their new executive director, who replaced the former executive director, Rachel Weaver. They have been, Safe Space has been they've been designated high risk since 2024, and they remain in high risk right now. The original high risk designation by our office originated from employee turnover. That was from around October 2025. In addition to that, there were concerns for PII and confidentiality issues, other cleanliness and organization concerns, shelter safety, but that was cleared up in March of 2025. The Board of Crime Control issued a compliance letter for them, and all issues were resolved. So from March of 2025 until here recently, there was turnover with the executive director, and there was a few instances where we were going to provide technical assistance, meet with them via Teams. Staff did not attend, Safe Space staff did not attend that meeting. There was lack of communication over the last few months with program staff and fiscal staff, with our office and their office, and also knowing that they received a new executive director. There were some concerns that we were not being communicated with as much as we would hope for. So on February 5th of 2026, Jackie and Kara conducted an on-site visit. They provided a report of their findings from that visit, a summary. But one of the significant concerns or disclosures by Safe Space staff was that there was a board internal investigation into the allegations of embezzlement. There were also other allegations regarding abuse of clients, distribution of drugs, and withholding of shelter donations. And so it was obviously a concern of ours, as they receive state and federal funding from us in the amount of, in grand total for grants, $492,522. So $492,000 essentially. And so that first visit was February 5th. On February 18th, we issued a non-compliance letter to Safe Space that really focused on 3 points. The first was that their program reports were past due. So their programmatic reports were past due. Their payment requests were past due. And that we wanted to learn more about the allegations of misuse of funds. And so we asked for a written summary detailing any internal or formal investigation or review of any really findings that they had internally regarding an investigation, the use and misuse of any funds. So that was February 18th. The first notice of noncompliance from our office was sent. On February 28th, we received information that there was no formal investigation initiated, and at this time their focus is on shelter services. So as a result of that, we issued a second non-compliance letter that was sent out March 10th. And on that letter, we focused on 3 things again. That was the failure to submit our program, the the programmatic reports that were due. They did make progress and submitted some program reports, but not all of them. That we provided them next steps on their payment request because there was additional information needed from our assessment. And then we were still waiting for a written summary of the internal investigation and assessment and the findings. So at this point, we issued 2 non-compliance letters with what we need and the next steps. As of 4/14, the performance reports are completed for the last reporting period, but for the current reporting period, they'll be past due on their performance measurable reports. And then we have received their payment request, but those are currently under review by staff, by MBCC fiscal staff, and we do expect to have to return some of those with questions and follow up. And then lastly, we have not, as of 4/14, received a request from Safe Space regarding assistance for an internal assessment, and we have not received a written summary as to any internal or investigation or formal investigation being completed. So that's the summary. I know it's a lot, so if you have questions or want to go over something more specific, I can help, and then also fiscal staff are here to help as well. Chair.
Thank you, Caleb. Does anybody have questions that are in the room?
Mr. Chair, Eric Price, I'm here. So we have grant agreements with them that say that they're going to do reports, and if they submit the reports, they're going to make reimbursement requests and we'll process the reimbursement requests. At this time, they're current on their reports, but the past date reports, but not on the current ones. They've made a funds request, and we have concerns about misappropriation of funds that came from them. Do we have the ability to withhold payment until we get a little bit of better clarity on what their internal investigation is and what determination they made in deciding not either to pursue criminal charges, any kind of forensic auditing, or any kind of accounting for money that we've previously given them?
Chair, Eric, so we have suspended funds. We have not, from the December 31st, 2025 payment request and the current payment request, we have not issued funding. So we have told them, you have to do XYZ, program reports, fiscal reports, and submit the assessment and findings to us before we release funds again. So currently no funds are being released.
Do you need a motion to continue withholding funds until they comply with the requirements for the information you requested?
Chair, this is Kayla Bragg. I think if Stuart has a recommendation, but I would think the board, it is up for the board to consider continuing the suspension of funds until the recommendations or till the request in the letters are submitted and we have time to assess what their internal assessment findings are, and then we can take next steps. It could be that the suspension continues, and then at the June board meeting, we come to you guys and Safe Space is available as well and say, here's what the findings were, here's what we submitted to the Board of Crime Control, and then we can figure out where to go from there.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions online?
Well, I see it's an action item. What action you asked us to take?
The Chair, Rick, it is an action item because I did want to provide the opportunity for the board to make a motion if they wanted to. And if not, then if it's not listed as action item, I didn't want to take that possibility away for the board to make action. But similar to what Eric was saying, I think it would be helpful for us as board staff to be able to hear from the board if you would like the suspension to continue until the requests are fulfilled in the letters.
Is that your recommendation? Or excuse me, Mr. Chairman, is that your recommendation that you want to action a vote here to just keep suspending their funds? Is that what you're requesting?
Chair, The recommend from the board staff, yes, the recommendation would be to continue suspension of the funds until the original request of safe space are completed.
Lori Barron, go ahead, please.
I just wanted to comment that I'm uncomfortable with a lot of what I've heard and feel like we need a lot more confirmation that we are administering the grant according to appropriate guidelines. And I do not want the Montana Board of Crime Control at risk for not having done our oversight responsibility. And so, I don't know if we're still waiting on a motion, but I certainly feel like the board has taken the right action right now.
Thank you, Lori. Any other comments?
Chair, this is Kayla Bragg. I do want to take a minute and just commend the staff. Jackie Hoover and Kara have done a fantastic job of responding to the original disclosure. We have complied with our federal requirements and special conditions that we're required to do by disclosing to the Office of Inspector General and doing all the things that we need to do on a timely basis. But that's also detailed timelines regarding whether it's rejection or acceptance of the payment request. We have done that within the time frame. So we have, I'm really proud of the response that the staff have taken, and just want you guys to know that it's we're doing what we need to do, but also are available to safe space and have open communication with them to provide technical assistance. And we do want to support them the best we can.
So by way of background, this has been going on. I've been involved, not just as chair, but as sheriff, and communicating with law enforcement in Butte Silver and Department of Criminal Investigation. This has drawn the attention at the federal level. So I, along probably with several of you, are very uncomfortable with, I don't know that we're going to discuss all the details that happened, but it's significant. So I would entertain a motion to authorize the withholding of payment until they come into compliance with the reporting, and that they can tell us that they've either went into an internal audit and what the investigation from DCI revealed. So I'm very comfortable with this, so I'll be quiet now.
So moved.
This is Laurie, second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
Chair, Eric, one thing for clarification, I'm not sure what formal notice we've given them under the current suspension about what they need to do to remedy the situation, but I want to make sure that it includes some requirement that a third-party reviewer evaluate whatever claims were made about embezzlement or any financial misdeeds that have happened. Not them saying that we've turned it over to law enforcement, or not them saying that they're not going to. A third party review of whatever the allegations and claims are. I say that because it's not our business to impede in the criminal investigation if there is one. I don't want to know anything about that, but I want to know that the board has taken the appropriate action to get their auditor or forensic auditor or some other party in to evaluate the circumstances, even if it has been handed over to law enforcement.
Totally agreed.
Agreed.
Mr. Chairman, this is Rick Kern. I'm uncomfortable doing this as a motion because I don't know enough about what really is going on here. Isn't there ramifications from the grant of what they're supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do, and what we are supposed to do or what we're not supposed to do if they're not complying? I mean, why do we need a motion from the executive committee to do this? I don't know enough about it to feel comfortable to vote on something when I don't really know. This is the first time I've even heard about all this. I don't know if all the executive committee board members have already been involved on all this and they're non-compliance or not, but I haven't been. So I'm not comfortable with this. I'm not very comfortable at all. I don't want to get us in trouble in the executive committee or as the Board of Crime Patrol, doing something that, something that should be done with it anyway, through our rules and our bylaws and everything, on what's supposed to be handled on these grants if they don't comply. So I don't know what I'm going to do here.
Thank you, Rick. Well, the issue before us is non-compliance with reporting. Plus, allegations of criminal activity. What as Eric so eloquently explained is that a third party assures us that the money that they have received was not used in an illegal manner. So there is, they told us they suspended the prior director because of embezzlement. And what my question has been, Rick, is, okay, if you embezzled, where did you spend that money? If you're embezzling it, clearly that is a felony. And you referred it to DCI to do the investigation because of some, didn't want to look like it was retribution for some other issues. But we started this process a while ago. The letters have went out to say, here's what you need to do, Safe Space. Here's another letter saying, here's what you need to do, and then a personal visit. And that's where we learned of the activity. The director said, well, we'll just do an internal thing. We're not calling law enforcement on this. When you're telling me that it was an embezzlement, but you don't want to report it. These are federal funds. So this isn't state funds or these things, this is federal. So we cannot abide. If you come back to us and tell us, yes, we've had this investigated, here's the thing, as Eric said, as Board of Crime Control, the legal investigation of the criminality of it is not ours. But are you in compliance? Are you following what we said to do? And the answer is no, blatantly no. So what the staff is looking for is a little backup from us to say, no, not until we get some answers, because this puts our entire program at risk and in jeopardy if we continue to allow that. And I hope some of the background helps. It's been moving along. We haven't talked about it a lot because of the sensitive nature. I think Stuart has been involved helping me say what I needed to say or helping me not to say what I didn't need to say. Thank you, Eric. Anyway, does that help you, Rick?
No, not really. Not really. I still don't understand. We've had other grants that were non-compliant in their reporting and stuff, and we haven't gone through this process before. Who's making the claim that they embezzled? I mean, who actually said that they're embezzling? How did we come up with that conclusion that they embezzle money?
The staff told us that.
Okay, so if they embezzle money, is that just something to stop their grant automatically without having an action from the executive committee and the responsibility for us to do that? I mean, we have rules and regulations on what they need to do for it, and if they're not complying, if they say that they aren't embezzling, well, then that's their word for it. If we can later on find out that they weren't embezzling, then I guess we could do something about it. But I'm still not very comfortable about going through this whole process. I mean, what does the staff say? I mean, what is going on with the staff? How did they find out this was going on? Just because they didn't comply with it? So we went and checked and see why they weren't compliant, and this is the information that we come up with. Is that, Mr. Chairman, I guess I'm asking Kayla that?
Chair Rick.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Chair, so and Rick, on February 5th, Jackie and Kara visited Safe Space because of concerns regarding lack of communication.
Right.
They had been notified that there was a new executive director, and they had set up a technical assistance teams meeting that staff did not attend. And so because of that, quote, no show, it was concerning. And so they went to conduct an on-site visit.
Mm-hmm.
And when they conducted that on-site visit, they have a report from their visit. They both have a written summary of what occurred that day, but that's when the disclosures happen that there's misuse of funds or embezzlement. And the other allegations, the criminal allegations as well. They also were able to note the kind of disarray of the facility and other observations as well. And that's what initiated
Yeah, well,
the next steps.
And Chairman, that's the second time you told us that. I mean, earlier on, you said the same thing, but it's still not hearing anything, about what's going on, how that came about. If they were non-compliant and they were actually doing what they were not supposed to do, why don't we just stop their grant? Why don't we just, like you said, I think you have the authority already to just quit paying them until they come through with their compliance issues that are done. I mean, legally,
Yeah, let me,
you understand what I'm saying?
I do, and if I could respond, Mr. Chair. So the staff has taken the actions I think that you're indicating, which is they've sent letters saying you're not in compliance. Here's the way to get into compliance. We're not going to fund your requests until such time as you come into compliance. The executive board at this time is not telling them to take additional action or recommending any kind of resolution. They are supporting the action that has already been taken so that staff, basically for support for staff. So if you don't think that's appropriate or unneeded, yeah, you can.
Well, I think it's unneeded. They already have that. They've always had that authority to do what they need to do to make sure that these people are in compliance. So, I mean, I guess I don't understand why you're asking the board to back up what they're doing. We have always backed up the board. And that's why we have policies and procedures and grants have, certain situations that they have to follow. So I guess I don't think it's a need to do it, but I mean, if you want to do it, I guess you can do it, but I don't want to make this a habit. Every time we have a grant, something happens like that, the staff goes and finds out that they're not in compliance, and they know what they need to do to get them in compliance or what they know what to do to stay in compliance. And that action is already taken. So, I mean, I don't understand this. Well, why the executive committee or even the board has to do this until it comes down to where we're taking that grant away.
Okay, any more discussion? We have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Any more discussion? Hearing no more discussion, we'll move to immediate vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Okay, motion passes. Next,
Chairman, for the record, I'm not voting.
what's that?
I'm not going to vote on this. So for the record, I'm not voting. I'm abstaining.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
Yep.
The next is update policy, crime data reporting. And that looks like, is Janice there? Oh, there she is.
Hi.
Okay.
Hi, Chair. Hi, Board. Yes.
If you want to walk us through this, that'd be great.
Okay, fabulous. Well, hello, everyone. It's good to see you. It's been a hot minute. Anyway, I'm hoping this will be an easy request or an easy ask for you all and that we can move along kind of quickly. So this is our crime reporting policy. It basically says, folks, we need you to, local law enforcement agencies, we need you to report your NIBRS data and all of the FBI data to us so we can get that submitted to the FBI. And then there's some wording in there that if folks aren't compliant, then it may affect their ability or the board's consideration to be able to, for them to, excuse me, to be able to apply for federal grants, to apply for the grants that you all administer. Anyway, so Kim or whoever's in charge of the document, if you go to the second, I believe it's the second page is the first place where we have something. Oh, it's not the highlighted one. That's okay. Let me see if I can find the statement. Let me pull up my copy so I can check real quick. Of course, it's going to be a bear. Okay. So it should be the second page under procedure 2.0. It's point 2.1. Okay, actually, this document that Kim is sharing it includes our requested changes. So currently point 2.1 says the SAC is responsible for making determinations about each law enforcement agency's reporting status as defined in this policy on a quarterly basis and supplying this information to program managers / accountants. And so our request is to change the on a quarterly basis to what you all are seeing on the screen here to read as needed or requested. I chatted with some of the program managers and I'm like, hey, so how how would you feel about us just checking in with you quarterly and letting you know? And they thought that might be a little bit of overkill because really folks are really, really good about submitting data. Usually the only issues are around vendor issues and that's kind of out of their control. And so this proposed wording change would also provide the opportunity. It makes it more of a conversation, but let's say one of the grant managers wanted to kind of keep checks on somebody. It doesn't limit them to just hearing from us once a quarter. They can come and maybe check with us every month for a few months in a row if there's some need for that. So it's just sort of loosening that up a little bit, which will help the SAC staff save time and it gives more flexibility and time also to the grant managers. The second the second proposed change is on page, what is it, page 3? It's under definitions 4.0. So if somebody could could
Change it
scroll
from
down.
14 day.
Yes. So we would like to change we'd like to change the document to read 13th day instead of 14th day because I believe it was in October of this last year. The FBI made some pretty large changes. In the past, and this is still the case, we have until about April 1st. So April 1st of this year of 2026 to report to them all of the data for 2025. And that data is utilized in some of the calculations, my understanding, some of the calculations for the JAG grant at the federal level to determine how much Montana is eligible for. And so that's still in effect. But in between that, instead of just publishing that data after the end of the year and after that data is good and clean, the FBI has instead decided to publish data monthly, every month, pretty much live data. And so with that, they rolled back the reporting date. I believe it was the 15th. So we now have to report to them by the 14th of every month. And so in order to get all of our agency's data and get that submitted, we would like to change this to them submitting to us on the 13th day of the month. I think that's it.
You have a change of, oh no, it isn't. It's just UOF. Everybody understands that's use of force on your
Yes.
4.1 second bullet. As long as everybody understands use of force, what that means.
Thank
Okay.
you. You know how I feel about abbreviations. Thank you.
I know. We got your back, Lori.
So so I don't think I can see the document that you guys are seeing because in my document that I have, the second bullet actually spells out use of force. So I'm wondering if we're looking at a little bit different documents.
Might be. Mine is
Yeah.
UFF, so
Oh
Yes.
gosh.
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I went onto the events calendar to get the documents. I am now going to share the other ones. So that is my bad.
Yeah. The one I'm looking at spells it out in the second bullet and it has the red.
Yeah, that's different than the one that's on BIMWA. So just give me a moment and I will share that.
Roger that. So the just to recap, the changes that I see are just as 2.1, you talked about that. You struck out on a quarterly basis and put as requested. That's the one change under procedure. Then the other change is the date. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
And that 13th day, changing it from the 14th to the 13th day, is in section 4.0, part 4.1, the first bullet, and then in number 4.2, in that sentence as well.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this requested change? I failed to go online and ask for a guest. I see Kristen Young. Are you there? And who is Kristen Young?
My name is not Kristen Young, it's Kelson Young.
Okay, but that's what it says on my computer. So, please introduce yourself.
Yes, Chair, my name is Kelson Young. I'm the Executive Director of the Montana Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence.
Awesome. Thank you. Is there anybody else I failed to ask to introduce? All right. So I hear no public comment now. Any comments from the board? Any comments from the board? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion about this action item.
Mr. Chair, is this a motion to recommend to the board? Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
I would move to recommend to the board the suggested changes outlined in the crime data reporting policy as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Rick. Any further discussion? Everybody understands the motion that we recommend to the board of the changes in the policy. Hearing no other discussion, we'll move to immediate vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, the next one is revised bylaw for the standing committee assignments. And you should have gotten that. So that looks like a Kayla. I'll call on you, Kayla, if you want to cover that, please.
Chair, thank you. I'm just passing out these documents real quickly. Okay, members of the committee, I have some recommended changes for our bylaws. I'll run through those for us here. On the second page of the bylaw, section 2.3, the board shall review biennially in March of every even year all statute-related programs. The recommendation is to strike in March to give the board flexibility when we do that. One example is after a legislative or quickly after a legislative session, the board may need to review any program, statutes, or policy or procedures related to our work following a session, and so that may not fall in March, and so we may do that more often. But removing in March just gives us the flexibility to do that when we need to. But just knowing that the board shall review it biannually of every even year, although I imagine we may do that more often. So just striking in March for some flexibility. The second recommendation.
Kayla, before you move on.
Yes, sir.
I understand what you're doing, which is taking out March. It's just sometime during that even year. But as it reads, I'm not sure Makes sense. Review biannually of every even year. I wonder if it should say review, just maybe strike biannually of, so it's review every even year.
Mr. Chair. Yeah, I was just gonna say it's redundant because even year is only every other year anyway.
Okay. Okay, and so, Mr. Chair, Kayla Bragg, that's, I can make those changes. The board shall review every even year, all statute related programs. Section 3.3, making the recommendation that the executive director or designated staff shall provide the meeting agenda at least 7 days prior to each quarterly meeting to board members via email or through the electronic board member web access system. So striking mail or. And then looking at page 4, the board shall recommend to the governor.
Okay. Yeah, I was kind of sitting on the internet when they was going to sleep.
It's the wheels to do it.
There's in our current bylaws, it says that the board shall recommend to the governor at least 2 members of the Juvenile Justice State Advisory Group. In working with the Youth Justice Advisory Council, and also having Matt Kuntz as an example who attempted to serve on both. I think it's a lot with the board meetings, with the YJC meetings and committee meetings as well. And so the recommendation is to strike that. If we ever do want to have a YJC member, if they come to the board and they want to serve on both, we could certainly consider that and provide that information to the governor's office. But it is a lot of work and a lot of meetings. So the recommendation is to strike that. We're going to make a recommendation to the governor's office for that.
Mr. Chair, can I comment?
Yes, Lori.
And say, I also did both for a little bit and it is just way too much. I had to come off of the YJC because I couldn't do both. So I appreciate that.
Back to you, Kayla.
Thank you, Chair. And then there's other just minor formatting changes. And then on page 7, under Article 9, creation of committees, that's where most of the changes are. And after I've been looking at our committees and doing an assessment of our committees and looking at the last couple of years of how many times committees have met, the work that has come before the committees. And a lot of our committees are meeting pretty inconsistently. Several of the committees have not met in quite a while. And so looking at, for example, the legislative committee met once since 2020. The policy committee hasn't met in the last several years, 0 times between 23 and 25. Then the technology committee hasn't met since 2023. The tribal committee met once in 25. And so just looking at how we can be more intentional and purposeful with our committee work, and then also being realistic about the resources that we have internally to support the committees and do those meetings really well. And so asking the committee's support and recommendation to have an executive, to revise our standing committees, to have an executive committee, a public safety committee, and a victims programs committee. And so the anti-drug committee would be just renamed public safety, and the victims committee would be renamed to victim programs committee. The The work stays the same. And so that chart that you have, it shows the changes. The work doesn't change. There are some things that are removed or added, but for example, for the executive committee, we would be adding committee work related to our policy and bylaws and any legislation, along with our statistical analysis center work. But the SAC hasn't met for committee work in quite a long time. And so I don't think that's going to be a lot of extra duties there. Part of that executive committee is removing the coronavirus emergency supplemental funding. For the public safety committee, the name convention aligns with the work that Erin Drining does in our office. She is lead on all of our public safety grants, and that is what the public, and that's how we communicate to the public about these grants, is that they're public safety related. And so I think when we looking forward thinking and when we talk about state planning for our public safety grants, we're able to share with the public, these are our public safety grants. They go before the public safety committee, and it just aligns the work and helps the public connect to the work. Also, the grants that go before that committee, they are all cohesive and kind of work together. And so the board members assigned to that committee, when they talk about the residential substance abuse treatment grant, there's likely going to be conversation about the justice assistance grant. Or when we talk about strategic planning, those members will be familiar with the public safety grants when they have the conversation. So the two things that would change with the public safety committee is that they would see the John R. Justice student loan repayment grant before them, and then also the residential substance abuse treatment program. And then we would remove the comprehensive opioid use site-based program from the prevention and treatment committee, because that has been terminated. Lastly, the victim programs committee, the work stays the same. There's no changes except for naming from a victim committee to a victim programs committee. Our victim program staff, when they are doing outreach and they're working with our subgrantees or the public, they're communicating themselves as victim program staff. And so this realigns with, again, the structure of the agency.
Go ahead.
And then lastly, looking at section 9.2, cleaning up some, it's language cleanup. Our standing committees are to be appointed on an annual basis in March, but members are serving a 2-year term. So the attempt to clean up the language is just striking on an annual basis in March to biennially, and members continue to serve a 2-year term.
Okay, any questions online? Any public comment on this? Public comment? Okay, questions from the committee? Questions from the committee?
Mr. Chair, Eric Grayson.
Yes, sir.
Looking at the provision, we're on section 9.2 standing committee. Committee members are appointed by the chairperson biennially. Members serve 2-year terms. I'd like to have, at least for consideration, some conversation about either including in section 5.2 chairperson and vice chairperson's duties to include removal. What I want to avoid is a situation where the chair puts somebody on there for 2 years, but the person doesn't work out or is a jerk or doesn't show up. Some ability to not have permanent 2-year terms for whatever issue might come up. And it's not in that section 9.2, and it probably fits better in 5.2 to add a provision somewhere in there that says appointments to standing committees are subject to review and approval by the chair. You can play with the language all you want, but I want some authority for that to be a board or a chair and a vice chair's authority.
I'm open to that. Any other suggestions?
Mr. Chair, Laurie,
Yes,
on that same note, can you scroll back down to the 9? I'm wondering, it says 2-year term. It doesn't say it, so I'm not necessarily suggesting we add anything, but could a person be repeatedly assigned to a committee for multiple 2-year terms? There's not a term limits or anything. I'm just questioning. I mean, I feel like I've been on a committee for a long time, longer than 2 years. So I'm assuming there's not a statute of limitations here or whatever you call it, term limits.
blades have to be sold. I don't think there's a limit there. I think.
So we just need to,
Unless
you can just
otherwise stated.
reappoint every 2 years if you wanted to keep somebody on there.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you still want.
Thank you.
It just, it's a review, are you still good? And keep moving.
Okay.
Is that thought pattern shared by the executive committee?
Yes.
Yeah, and that sounds good to me. I just want to make sure we were all reading that the same way.
Okay,
I mean, I think particularly because some people come to this board with a very specific interest, and I don't want terms on advocates for a special area that they want to serve in the committee until I never read anywhere here that there are term limits. I like the discretion of the chair to make the appointment. I just want the chair to be able to remove appointees within that 2-year period. That's all I'm asking for.
what would that be after section 5.2 after I to add that in there?
I do think so. Yeah. They can folks can wordsmith it however you want, but section 5.2 add a J that gives the board chair the authority to remove standing committee members. I don't care if it's for cause or for what. You smart people can figure that one out.
Well, Mr. Chair, if I might comment on that, I don't see that the duty or the authority to appoint in the first place is within 5.2. I think it's only discussed in 9.2. So we should probably add the authority to remove to 9.2 also. But other than that, I see no issue with it.
I broke. You want to work? Yeah, that is that here. Yeah, but you might say, yeah. Please.
That's actually in conflict to 9.2. So Kayla's also pointing out that 9.7 states that the board shall elect standing and special committee members, which is actually in conflict to 9.2, which states that the chairperson appoints and then the board approves. So I think you could strike 9.7.
Yeah, staff practice has been 9.2. I wasn't even aware about 9.7, so my bad.
Well, at least you would, I guess, maybe just strike the first sentence of 9.7, leaving board chairperson shall designate the committee chairperson and vice chairperson, if you want, or add that to 9.2.
I would, yeah. And they need to be together, and they're not. So which one shall we strike?
I'd like to say something too when you're done.
Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, I guess I must have got out of the bed on the wrong side today, because I don't understand what we're doing here. Like you said, 9.7 says that the board shall elect the standing committee and all these different committees. Shouldn't the board be the ones to decide whether we want to change these to what you're trying to talk about? I don't understand it. There's a reason why there's 7 committees out there, because there are a lot of people who are very well versed in those committees that we chose, and we set these whole policies up through the policy committee. So shouldn't all this have gone through the policy committee before we started doing all this? I don't know. This is your idea, I think, Kayla. And I think that you probably are in good intention that you want to do this, but there's a reason why some of those committees haven't met in a long time. It's like the legislature, they only meet every 2 years. So, there's no real need to meet as often as you might think that they want to. And same thing with a couple of the other boards. I guess I'm just, I'm kind of an old fashioned type person. I kind of figure if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And we've been doing this for a long time. We have very capable people on each one of these committees, both chairs, vice chairs, and the committee members. They volunteered to be on there, and then the board elected them on there. Chairman decided who was the chairman of those committees. I understand that, and that's good. But I just can't see this cutting us down. You know, I mean, just because that they haven't met, there's a reason why they haven't met, you know, and I'm hoping like these recommendations that you're making, Kayla, are just recommendations to the board when we talk about it, and not action item right now to get them taken care of. Because I've never discussed it, and I don't think any of these other board members discussed what you're trying to do. Who gave you the authority, or who gave you the direction to do this? I mean, I understand that chairperson, or not chairperson, but a director has the authority to do things that they think is the best and what's going on right there. But this is all new. This is all new that we haven't ever talked about. I don't know, maybe you guys have talked about this, but I haven't heard about it, you know. So that's where I feel about it, you know. And like you say right now, you just found out something now that she was trying to do that isn't in there. It's illegal.
Well, it's not illegal, it's just phrased.
Right. Well, yeah.
Correctly.
Well, it's double jeopardy, you know what I mean? It's doing it. So I mean, I guess I'm just against it.
As I understand it, Mr. Chair, these are to get to your point, I think we're making recommendations to the board so the board can discuss it.
Well, why didn't the policy committee go over this and do this and make this recommendation? Why didn't you go to the policy and ask them, I'd like to do this, and let them decide?
And that's maybe, that could be an additional motion, would be to.
Well, I think it should just happen without a motion. I think it just happen.
Well, the motion is currently before you,
Yeah.
so you got to act on the motion.
I don't think there's.
And you could make a substitute
I
motion.
don't think there's a motion yet.
Is there not?
No.
No, there's no motion on the floor. We're just,
Okay,
we're just discussing.
My bad.
Well, that's all right. We talked about doing this so we could have the rousing discussion. So,
Chair, I just would comment that I have talked to program staff, and they are supportive of the changes from 8 committees to 3 committees. If just provide that as information as well.
Mr. Chair,
yes, boy.
when I read it and look at it, it looks like all the work is still being done. So we're not taking any work or disregarding any things that need to be done. I'm just reading over it again on the document that you sent us on email. So it looks like everything that the committees cover currently are still covered. So we're not losing any work. We're not losing any pattern or tradition or background, because all the work will continue to be done. It's just being done by 3 groups instead of 7. Is that accurate? Am I interpreting that correctly?
I'll let Kayla answer that, because I'm trying to look over things that Rick raised. Kayla, can you answer her question?
Chair Lori, yes, it's going from 8 committees to 3 committees. The work does not change. There is additional duties added to 2 of the committees.
So for example, I'm just trying to make sure I understand. If something would have gone to the legislative committee, and if this group agrees to this, the board agrees to this, whatever the procedural process is on that, where would something that would have gone to the legislative committee go in these 3 committees? Executive, right?
Yes.
And so something that would have gone policy would also go to executive. Something that would go on prevention treatment would go to where does prevention treatment go? Sorry.
Chair Lori, the prevention treatment, they had 2 grants or 3 grants. One was terminated. That would go to the public safety.
Sorry, you told me that. You said that. I'm sorry. So all 4 of the ones that you're recommending, you're not really getting rid of committees. You're consolidating, right? I mean, all the work still gets done. We're not getting rid of any work. Everything that these committees would have covered is still going to get done in the 3 committees you're proposing consolidating into. Is that accurate?
Chair Lori, yes. And the other reason why I'm recommending the changes is because we have 5 new board members that will need to be appointed in June to committees. And we're potentially, as it current stands with our standing committees, those members would be put on committees that are not functioning. And so we want to make sure that we're including them in the work and that they can be involved and their voice heard. And so getting them on committees that, again, have intention and intentional focus and work that comes before them is another consideration.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, I just add, sort of in sympathy with my colleague Rick here, on the "if it ain't broke, don't fix it" mentality. I get that. I also want to give some discretion to our new executive director to make some changes, but I do think this needs to go to the board for a full discussion. If I had my preference, I probably would have rolled this out in a work session. I think this deserves more attention than us just being surprised, I think, in an executive committee session. But to, I think, alleviate your concerns, Rick, I fully expect this to be well vetted by the full board if it comes forward as a recommendation. And I'm sort of inclined to say, let her make some changes if she wants to, and we can evaluate it as it goes on. And if it's not working because of consolidation, boy, that should be something that we talk about at a work session.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, and I agree with Eric what he's saying, but right now we're not doing this properly because we do have a policy committee. We should have went through the policy committee to decide what they decided to do. There's reasons why there's certain people on a policy committee because they've dealt with policies before. They know what they're doing, and if they would have agreed with you, which they probably would have, that would be fine. But it didn't go through that procedure already, and that's what I'm kind of worried about. These different committees that you say haven't met or haven't done like prevention treatment, you know, and the other ones that you say that either the grants ran out or there's just not much to do in there. We need to get more grants like that, and we need to, if we've got a prevention treatment committee, that committee would probably go out there and make recommendations to the staff to do that job, to get those grants, to be able to, you know, add to them and do whatever we want to. I mean, there's a reason why there was all these committees. We didn't just throw all these committees in here for whatever reason, you know, over all the years that I've been here, you know, there's a reason why they were that way. And I have seen a slowdown in all those committees where we haven't met. We put a tribal committee on, and I was really disappointed that we haven't met. You know, we just have not met because we haven't really gotten together with either the policy committee or anybody else to decide what exactly the authority of the tribal committee is, what grants that they're available for, how we want to outreach to the different communities. I'm just, you know, I'm just at a loss here on why this all came about to start with. I mean, I understand what you're saying. You're trying to streamline it and you're trying to make it work a little bit easier. But when I talked to you on the phone too, Kayla, you said something like you didn't want the board members to have to work so much, you know, just would cut down on their participation because they're busy and everything else like that. I'm not that busy, you know, and I could be on the committee that I was appointed to by the chairman. And I enjoy doing those kind of things, you know, and I don't know how this is going to work out and what this is just going to do to us. So I really think there's something that should have went through the policy committee or should go through the policy committee until it's incorporated into whatever policy committee is going to go into. Public safety, I suppose, is that what you're saying policies going under, or that job or that duty?
Chair Rick, yeah, so policy and bylaws would go in front of the executive committee. And when looking at the committees, the policy committee hasn't met, I didn't have any record of the meeting in the last, you know, since 2023. And so the idea that come before the executive committee is that we're meeting and that it's a chance to have the conversation now because it's a full assessment of all the committees, not just one or two. And so just getting the assessment before you guys for consideration.
So to avoid some concern about vetting this more before we recommend it to the board, am I hearing that correct?
Mr. Chair, I'm fine with it being a board discussion. I mean, I'm trying to be sympathetic to Rick's concerns and I understand him. I don't know that reconvening the policy committee after we've already had this is going to change what should happen. And that is a full discussion at the board. So no, I'm not resistant to moving it forward to the board. I think the full board needs to debate this. And that's what I'm agreeing with.
Okay, gotcha.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
am I correct for a point of order, just understanding that that's what we do on the executive committee is part of what we do, not all and not inclusive, but if we approve something, it still has to go to the board anyway. It doesn't say that it's going into effect. This says, hey, this group looked at it and said, let's send it to the board. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Right. So I agree with Eric. It doesn't matter which committee it comes through. And I currently serve as the chair of the policy committee and have not convened that committee at the request of the board and the staff in my time serving as chair. So I'm not sure it would be different if it came through the policy committee or this committee. I do agree with Rick that it needs to go to the whole board, but I think that's already the process. And so I'm comfortable with this getting to the board for the board, everybody to be able to give their input.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is Rick. So you don't care that it didn't come through your policy board that this came about?
Yeah, I'm
Is this
okay.
the first time you've heard? Is this the first time you've heard about this? Other than maybe a discussion before this meeting?
No, we talked about it too. I had a phone call, but I think the reason for me, Rick, is we're having an executive committee and the policy committee. If those people have expertise in policy and knowledge and background, which we hope they all do, being on that committee, they haven't used it in over 2 years. And so it hasn't been being exercised regularly. So to me, as long as it gets in front of the whole board and everybody has the opportunity to have this robust professional conversation, I'm okay with this being the method by which it gets to the whole board. I think both get them to the whole board, and it doesn't bother me that it didn't come through policy.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, then I guess I understand what your concern is with the policy committee. Mine is that it depends on what the motion is here today, I guess, because most of the motions are recommendations from that committee to do this, to do whatever, the action item is supposed to be. I won't go with it if it's an action item saying that they want to do this, because it's a recommendation and we support that recommendation. And I don't know if everybody else does either on the board. They haven't probably seen this either. And I guess that's just what with the policy, to me, the proper procedure would have been, Kayla, to go to the policy board and say, here's what I'd like to do. This would make it a lot more easier. We do this, discuss it with the policy board. The policy board makes a motion to do it or not do it, and instead of bringing in the executive board to do that. That's why we have those committees. And that's probably the reason why we haven't met as a policy committee, because there hasn't been any policy changes like this before, other than what we discuss at our gatherings there at Fort Benton. We always talk about the policy there and what we'd like to see done, what we'd like to change, and go from there and then direct the committees, the proper committee on each one of them to do what we ask them to do. So I guess I'm a little offended that you're going ahead of everybody and making these recommendations to everybody or to the exec committee without going through the policy committee to start with. That's there was a committee there. I mean, that's the way I feel about it. And I'm not going to pull any punches about it, but that's the way I feel it was. And we still have those committees. I think things need to go through those committees that we're supposed to be going through those committees, the type of business that we have. So, that's all I say. And I won't say anything more about it. I think you got the gist of where I feel about this. I'm kind of broad sense when I say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I mean, there's a reason why we haven't met with those, and I can understand that. But I'll do whatever the committee, the majority wants to do, I guess. And I have to express my opinion about it. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rick. In the interest of time for all of us, we need to keep going. So what do you want to do?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to offer a motion that I can get Rick to support. So my motion would be to bring forward a recommendation for standing committee realignment to the full board for consideration. If I could get a second, I'll discuss it.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. Now we
So in light of the concerns addressed and in the discussion, I want to make sure that we're on the same page. I'm with you. Board needs to review this. There also needs to be some more work done to this, as we've discussed before, in determining board chair's appointment authority, conflicts that are already in the existing language that need to be addressed. So this package that she's presented to us today, in some versions, is going to come forward, and the full board is going to get a full vetting and discussion about it. This executive is not recommending that we adopt it. It's just saying that it needs to be before the time. That's my motion.
The second.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think we're more on the same page than it sounds. I think all of us want the full board to have an opportunity, and for that reason, I'll support the motion.
Okay. Any other discussion? All of those in favor of bringing this recommended changes to the board for discussion? I understand your motion, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. We'll bring it forward for discussion. Next is state planning. Kayla?
Chair, committee members, when I first started in September, one of the first things that staff brought to my attention was they wanted help state planning. They wanted to figure out how we could do a better job at state planning. As a criminal justice planning organization, that's what we do. We do planning when it comes to these grants and priority of funding. And so having a robust state plan is really important, I believe. And so sitting down with staff with program staff in December and January, we came up with this draft plan. It is not the way, it is a way, and it's new for us. And so just knowing that there are going to be many chances for changing this up, doing it a little bit different, and getting feedback from our stakeholders. And so I just want to highlight the plan for you as it exists right now. But knowing that it's not the final version, this is something that staff and I are working on. But really the goal and the approach is for it to be consistent across all of our programs. So our victim programs, our public safety programs, and our juvenile justice programs, for it to be a coordinated approach, concise and user-friendly, not only for staff, but for the public and our stakeholders that want to participate in state planning, to inform the board about what's going on in their community, what's going well, and to help you guys make the decision on how funding is prioritized. And so in our conversations, we have a few needs that we want to focus on. One is that the meeting materials for the state planning sessions and the meetings are they're able to support the conversation and also inform the public to allow them to participate. We want to have our strategic plans that are for any of our grants. We want them to be data driven. And so looking at ways that we can collect data from the public and from our partners. And we want the data collection that we receive from our partners, we want to be able to do that in a way internally that we can clean that data up easily and it not be another task, another burden for staff. And so looking at how can we improve those ways that we're collecting data, that way it can be easily shared with the board for decision making, and then also with the feds on the grants to say, here's what we've done and here's what we know. And so we want to get that in a way where data can be easily incorporated into our strategic planning. Our draft implementation of state planning, it starts with this data collection. And so, for any of our grants, like justice assistance grants, that grant alone has 8 or 9 purpose areas. So we have to figure out how to have a conversation with the public and our partners about the JAG funds, to then tell the board, here's what we know, here's what we've learned across the state, and then you guys make that decision on how to prioritize funding. So we have this idea of, we're going to collect the data and we're going to have these discovery meetings that are open to the public. So it's a wide net kind of cast on getting information from the public and the public's involvement in that. One of the important things to me that I've talked to staff about is we have to have a conversation roadmap, which is, you'll see is number 3 there under phase 1, Roman numeral 3. We have to know going into that meeting, how are we going to facilitate that conversation with the public that may be hearing this for the first time, or with our partners, to really talk about and have a safe conversation, a safe space to say, this is what we're experiencing in our community. Here's how these monies would help us. And so we talked about open the conversation about successes, challenges, coming up with discussion questions, interactive polling that can be documented and provided to our federal managers, and then post-meeting surveys. That way, folks that don't feel comfortable participating online has the opportunity to participate in state planning. So moving from these wide net meetings, we want to get more narrow. And so we've talked about focus groups. And so having smaller meetings with our partners, maybe it is an association, maybe it's a mix of folks that represent underserved populations or different folks across the state, maybe it's a rural organization, but really narrowing it down from our wide net meetings to really a focus group, to come to that focus group and say, here's what we've learned from these meetings we've just had with the public and with a bunch of people. What are we missing? What do you want us to know? But continuing to have a conversation roadmap for those meetings and an outreach packet. That way people can have time to digest what we want to go over and come prepared to that meeting. And then moving on to kind of this third prong of statewide technical assistance providers. So whether that is like the Montana Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence, whether it's MSPOA, the Sheriff's and Peace Officers Association, Chiefs of Police, MACO, whatever those statewide partners are that are serving diverse communities, bringing those people to the table and saying, here's the analysis of the data that we've gotten so far from our wide net meetings, from our focus groups. You know, what else are we missing? What do you want to, what do you see here from what we're showing you? And so having that conversation as well. Moving into phase 2 and 3, it's writing the state plan. And some of our federal grants require that the plan be posted online for the public to comment within 30 days. And so making sure that we're following that process, and then getting it to a committee. And so if it's the Victims of Crime Act grant and we're doing a state plan for that, then we would get that in front of the Victim Programs Committee. So really doing a presentation to the committee to then seek comments from them and suggestions and recommendations on what we've learned. And then that information would be presented to the full board. And then we would have a final state plan from the board. So, you know, when I first started, again, this is one of the first things that came to my attention from staff. And I feel we've done a really good job at getting something in paper in writing a plan. And we've been working with partners, community partners, statewide partners, to just talk through this and what the background or history has been on state planning. That way I can learn a little bit more too. But this is something that staff and I have been working on. And again, it's not the final version. I think this is something that we're going to learn over time. And unfortunately, state planning is now, and we really, to be best practice, we should be doing this a year ago. But I think we're off to a good start. And then finally, Chair, I just want to share an example of what this looks like, this kind of in action. We had a Mentimeter summary from one of our victim program meetings where there is a data analysis sheet where it talks about the successes of the analysis is the successes of collaboration example is an example. Outreach is working, increase in services requested, victims, more information regarding victims and restorative justice, tribal program expanding services. So we're able to take the data that we're getting electronically and make us a data analysis summary. And we can start doing that for any of our grants that we do state planning on. And then also we have part of the conversation roadmap are discussion questions that we've tested out. And we're able to take those answers and put that into a report. That way we could share that with the board and help us create that state plan. Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the public comment.
Thank you, Chairman Dutton. My name again is Kelson Young. That's KELSENYUNG. And I'm the Executive Director of the Montana Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. You've heard from many times over the years. For context sake, Chairman Dutton, I have been in my position now for 20 years. And so you can imagine after 20 years of collaboration with the Board of Crime Control, I might have some thoughts about state planning. And so I did want to join your conversation today to offer in those perspectives. So, over the last 20 years, there's been peaks and valleys when it comes to how collaboration has worked and how the state planning process has operated. And I would say in general, from the victim services community, we would say that it has been scattered, meaning oftentimes every couple of years we get a survey by computer and we're asked to fill that out. Occasionally we're asked to attend a statewide meeting or a discussion, but there really has never been a clear plan for how each grant program needs a state planning process. I will say that each director that was before Kayla, I have had this conversation with, and everyone has sought some sort of structure and guidance for how this could be best done. And so, like Kayla said, this is absolutely a work in progress, and we'll continue to offer comment along the way in terms of how it's going. But I do really like the idea that the staff of the Board of Crime Control will have a roadmap for how to engage the community. As Kayla said, each of our federal grants, and I'll just speak specifically for victim services, which is VAWA, SASP, FIPSA, and then also VOCA to some degree. Each one of them require the state agency who passes through the funds to collaborate very closely with the coalition in order to develop the state plan and various aspects of that. In fact, when it comes to FIPSA specifically, the coalition is required to do a needs assessment that is to feed the state plan and vice versa. So I wanted to offer this committee the perspective, which is that it is much better to have your input requested and then have that input have a meaningful result. And I think in the past, it hasn't always felt like the feedback that our victim service programs offer ends up making its way to the committees of the board and ultimately the board. And it hasn't necessarily had a place in terms of actual planning, what we write into the grants, et cetera. So what we're excited about the idea is that all of this information that the staff will gather will then be brought to the board for your knowledge and review. I know that you go through your own strategic planning process each year. And I think if I was a board member, it would be really great to have such concrete information to be able to reflect on. And again, it's a requirement and an expectation for our federal funders, and they will be very happy to see that we've improved in this area. It is very similar to how other states do it. And so along the way, I look forward to partnering with Kayla and the staff on this, and just wanted to offer our support for really trying to dig in on this and build out a plan and have that plan have meaningful results, or at least the goal of meaningful results, so that all of that hard work could result in meaningful information going to the board about how our world is looking across the state. Happy to answer any questions, Chairman. I wanted to thank you again for allowing me to comment. And also, Mr. Chairman, I noted at the beginning of the meeting that you explained that you're allowing for public comment throughout the agenda. And again, as someone who's been participating in these meetings for a while, thank you so much for clearing that up. I know it's always been a bit of a, like, do you only take public comment at the beginning or wait till the end? And I just want to offer my gratitude that you all have figured that out and that you've clearly made a place for us to, myself and others, to make comments. So thank you, Chairman, for that, especially today. Thanks.
Thank you for taking the time to be here, and your comments are very helpful and useful. So we are excited when we get participation from people who we're trying to get money to. So that's the goal. Back to you. Any other public comment?
What coalition did you represent again? I didn't catch that. Montana Coalition for
Domestic and sexual violence.
Domestic and Sexual Violence.
Any other public comment? Okay, any comments from the board? Any comments from the board? This is not an action item. This is for awareness and education. Hearing no questions. Thank you, Kayla. Now, what can I presume that you'll report back on how this is going, so stakeholders, how they're experiencing. I like the flow, and I think it will be helpful. So when will we discuss this again?
Chair. Excuse me, the justice assistance grants, our public safety grants, we are going to start state planning for them. And so we will continue to, again, work through our draft plan and get results to the victim programs committee, and then also our public safety committee if it's renamed in June. But we'll just continue working through our plan and get our results and findings, outcomes to committees, and we'll just continue on.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll now move to the, and is there any other public comment within the jurisdiction of this committee? Is there any other public comment that anyone would like to make in the public? Hearing none, I'm going to close the open meeting, and we're going to move to executive meeting. So,
Do you need a motion to close that? Do you need a motion to close this first agenda?
what's that?
Do you need a motion to close this first agenda of business we're doing now
Oh,
or no?
good, Rick. Glad you're there. I will
I'll
take
move
the
to-
motion.
I'll move to adjourn in this first agenda.
Okay. We have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in, any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll move to immediate vote. All those in favor of closing the executive meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. All right, thank you.